So from here, the next thing we are going to do is to create the listener object, which is just an instance of the class we created earlier here. So I'm going to do that. And then the next thing will be to properly set up the authentication for our application to connect to Twitter. So if you look here, what we are doing essentially is trying to pass the Twitter consumer API key and consumer secret, as well as the access tokens to the authentication library. So once we have that, then we get to the interesting parts of this whole journey when we call the stream. We'll set up a stream. So once we set up a stream, we pass the listener object and the authenticator object. So with this, we are ready to go. So the next thing we are going to do is to create a stream. So what the stream does is that it fetches all the tweets from Twitter. Now, but we don't want to get all the tweets. We just want the tweets that are talking about the people that we are interested in. And these people are the two political party candidates. In this case, we are talking about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So we just want any tweet that contains the word Trump and any tweet that contains the word Biden. So because mostly this is how people refer to them. So even if they say Donald Trump or Joe Biden, there's always going to be a Biden and a Trump in that tweet. So you want any and every tweet that has either of these two words or both. So we're going to stall all warnings. So we stall warnings and say this is true. So once we have this, then we'll take a look to see if we can actually fetch the tweet. So I'm going to run this. So once this starts running, so what you're seeing here are tweets and warnings at the same time. So I'm going to stop this a bit, and then let's take a look at what we have on screen. So what you can see here is that each tweet is like a JSON output, right? The time the tweet was created, then ID, and then the text, which is the actual tweet. So if you look here, you see that the time is 16:08, but it's a tweet that was made today. I don't know the exact time zone this is, but it's a tweet that was made today to show you that we're actually dealing with real-time data and not historic data. So once we have this, we are sure we are getting the tweets. The next thing we want to do is then to create an event hub. Okay, so the event hub that we are going to create, if we switch back to our initial design, you will see that we've completed the first step, which is the Databricks part. So the next step we're going to deal with now is to create an event hub. So I'm going to switch from here and then quickly display I'm going to display the design we had previously. So this is our design. Where is it again? here. So far we have been able to complete this part, and then we are getting to this part. So we're going to create an event hub. All right. Once we create the event hub, we're then going to connect this event hub to this Databricks streaming tweet. So we're getting the streaming tweet. We just want to connect event hubs to it. Okay. That being said, gonna switch back to our demo. So from here, I'm just going to dive into Azure yet again. Sharing here. Okay. So I'm going to dive right back into portal.azure.com. Azure.com. Okay. So once I get here, what I want to do is to go into my resource group, and then I can click on add. When I click on add, I search for events hubs. So there it is. I click on create. So I can give it a name. So the name I have on the design is that this is, so I'll give it a namespace. So namespace is more like a global unique name. So let's say PML demo. PML demo. Okay, I'm going to select standard. Standard throughput. Going to leave it at 1. Pretty much everything stays the same. I hit review and create. So while this is creating, I will pause the presentation, and then I'll be right back. All right. So it seems our event hub has been finally deployed. We can go into the event hub and look around, so everything is good. So the first thing we will do is to create an event hub. So what we just created is like a container that is going to contain the various event hubs. So to actually create the event hub we're going to be using, we just click on event hubs. So when we click on it, we give it a name. So this is where we give it the name of the name we want, right? So let's say we just give it the raw tweets, because according to our design, this is going to contain raw tweets. So we just give it the name raw tweets. Partition count. So if our data is going to be partitioned, say by a certain feature, we can increase this number, but for now, let's just leave everything to 1. And this message retention is how many days you want the message to stay in the queue. So in this case, you just want to keep the message for 1 day. So we hit create. So once our event hub is created, so our event hub is now ready. The next thing we want to do before we move on is to go to this shared access policies. So this is where we decide how we want to manage our event hubs. So but here, what we have is the policy, shared access policy is more like the permission you want your event hubs to have. So this is the container. Of course, the container is more like it's keeping all the event hubs. So it has the ability to manage, send messages and receive messages. So, but we want to go to the specific event hub we just created, which is raw tweets. So when we click on raw tweets, we click on shared access policies. Then we need to create a new policy. Okay, so I'll just call this my policy. Just call it my policy here, and then I'll give it full access, and then I hit create. Once you create a policy, then you'll be able to send and receive message from this event hub. So you click on this, and then what is really very important you should take note of is the connection string, because this is how you connect to this specific event hub when you want to send message and when you want to receive a message from the hub, in the event hub. So you just copy the primary connection string primary key. You just hit that and copy it. And then once we get to this point, then we are ready to head back to Databricks. So what we have so far is a Databricks job that is just printing tweets, right? But this is not what we want, really. What we actually want is to be able to send all those tweets to the event hub, which is what we're going to do right now. So with that, we are going to create a few more functions. Okay, so we're going to create a function that is actually going to send the events to our event hub that we just created right now. So I'm going to just copy this and then paste it here, and then I'll explain. Okay, just know that this is the function that sends the tweets to the event hub. Again, this is not a good practice to put your connection string in the code. All right, so I just put it here because I want to, be pretty fast. But ideally, what I should have done is the same thing I did here, put it in the environment variable section of the cluster and then call the variable. All right, so it doesn't show up in your code. But again, when you're doing this in production, you don't want to put your connection string in code. So this connection string right here is what we just copied, and I'm going to just paste it here. And then with that, we have essentially configured our event hubs to send a message using this function. So what is happening here is when a new tweet comes in, okay, we create an event client from the connection string. All right, so we create an event producer. So a producer is what sends an event, and a consumer is what receives an event. So this is how we create a producer using the connection string of our event hubs. And then once we do that, the next thing we are going to do is to create a batch. So let's say we receive a lot of tweets simultaneously. We just put them together as a batch. Once the batch is ready, you hit producer dot send batch. It sends that batch. Okay, so that is what is happening here. So once we have this done, now the next thing we are going to do is then to connect this function to the onData function. So onData is what happens when a new tweet is received. So far, we're just printing it out. But in reality, what we want is when a new tweet comes in, we want to send it to the event hub. So onData, we just want to run the message, the function we just added now, and then pass the data to it. So this is just what we are going to do when a new event is actually received. All right. With that, we can try this, but there's one more thing we need to do, and that is what happens when there is an error, because sometimes there could be an error, right? Because maybe you're not processing the tweets fast enough as they are coming in. And when that happens, you're going to get a couple of errors and then the connection will break. Just like what you're seeing here, warning, you skipped about, this is about 3 kilobytes. No, sorry, this is about 3 megabytes, right, of output. So it means that I'm not processing the tweets as fast as they are coming. So it's going to skip some and, like that. So a way to fix this is to increase the number of nodes in your cluster. But this is something I cannot do because the more nodes you have in your cluster, the more money you're going to spend on Azure. And I don't want to spend any more money than I'm already spending. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to make do with whatever tweets I miss. That's okay. So, but what is going to happen is that if this number keeps increasing, at some point, the connection between the Twitter stream and your application is going to break. And when it breaks, everything stops. So to solve that problem, what we are going to do is to create an infinite loop. So we are going to say while true, we're going to try this. All right, so we're going to try to stream. And then in the event that anything happens, we don't care what it is. Anything is essentially, we just want to continue. So when it disconnects, this we just say, you know what, reconnect. Okay, so that is what this infinite loop will help us do. So with that, we can try our code and see if we can get the tweets to the event hub. So I'm just going to run this. I have a syntax error. Where is it? Syntax error. Since it's here. Syntax error. Syntax error. Okay, so so at the end of the day, the entire code should look like this. Let's try this again. So from what I'm seeing here, the code is running, all right? So this shows us that it's getting tweets, it's sending it. But for us to be sure, we have to head back to the event hubs and see if there are any activity on the event hubs. So we're going to come here And then we're going to look at this because this is where we are sending all the tweets. So from here, you can see that the number starts increasing, the number of tweets start increasing, all right? So there are 11 tweets so far, so it's going to keep increasing, which means that our connection is working. Okay, so once we are able to do this, then we have solved, half of our problems. It means that our Databricks is connecting to our event hubs, which is good news. The next thing we're going to do, so I'm going to quickly switch back to our design so that we see what we are supposed to configure next. So we have configured this correctly. So the next thing we're going to configure, remember that I told you that for the sake of time, we are going to focus on the hot part, right? The part that deals with the streaming data, not the sentiment, which is already code. So as the data is coming from Twitter, Databricks sending it to event hubs, and then from event hubs, Stream Analytics is aggregating the data and sending it to Power BI. So let's head over. So the next thing we're going to do is to configure a Stream Analytics job. Okay, so that being said, we're going to head back into Azure and then create a Stream Analytics job. To do that, I'm going to start presenting again, select my window. I'm going to stick with this window. It's kind of a good window. So once I am here, I'll just leave this so that I can see what my events are doing. Then I will try opening up a new Azure window. And then once it opens up, I will go to my resource group. Remember what we discussed, everything stays in the resource group. So I have my cluster and my event hub container. So I'm going to click add, and then I'm going to search for stream analytics job. So here, stream analytics job. So once I click on it, I click on create. Okay, so I'll give you the name. I will just call this stream analytics job, say process raw tweets. Okay, because this stream analytics job is actually attached to the raw tweets. Okay, so it's going to be a cloud job. It's going to have, let me just put it, it's one streaming unit. So one streaming unit is like how many different computers you want to be processing the not computers, but like a compute and network and storage instance that you want to be processing all the messages from the event hubs. So I just want to put one for now, and then if one is not enough, I might increase it much later. So I hit create. This shouldn't take long. And once it's done, we can then head on to configure the stream analytics job. But before we continue, okay, it's already done. Okay, so I'm going to click on it, and then, so here is what we have, okay? What we have here is a stream analytics job. So for you to use a stream analytics job, there are three main things that you need to configure. The first thing is where the input is coming from. The next is the query you want to perform on that input. And then the most important is where you want the stream analytics job to send your output. In some cases, you might want to run a function, okay, on the input before sending it out. So as the tweet is coming, you're processing the tweets in the stream analytics and you're sending it to the output. Everything needs to happen really fast, right? All those things need to happen in less than in milliseconds, actually, for it to still maintain the real-time title, okay? Because the whole idea is to process this thing in real time. Okay, so another thing I want to show you before I dive into this is every event hub has a stream analytics attached to it, but it's kind of a low budget stream analytics. It doesn't have all the features of a stream analytics job. So if I click on here, you see process data. So when you click on process data, it gives you something that is similar. Say enable real-time insights from events. So when you click on explore, it opens a stream analytics. But what it just gives you is where you can perform a query. You can't do any more processing on your data. So you won't see function here. So that is why I wouldn't want to use this. Okay, so I had to create a full-fledged stream analytics job. Okay, but I just wanted to show you so you know that this is something available to you as well. So once we head back to our stream analytics job here, the first thing we want to do is to create the input. Where is the tweet coming from? It's coming from event hubs. So stream analytics jobs can take input from 3 places currently: event hubs, IoT hubs, and a blob storage. So for now, we are dealing with event hubs. So when we click on event hubs, it's going to require us to give it an impute alias. So the impute alias is more like the name you want to refer this this event hubs with in your stream analytics code or queries or whatever it is. So let's call this raw tweets. Okay, raw tweet. I can use special characters. Raw tweets right here. Okay, so where is this coming from? It's coming from this. It's coming from this event hubs. Okay, so everything is looking good so far. So I don't have a partition key on the data, so I'm just gonna leave it blank, and then I don't want to compress it. I will just save. Right. So now I have my input configured. Once everything checks out, it's going to try to connect, and if the connection works, it's going to tell me that the connection was successful, which means I can use this as an input to my stream analytics job. So I just want to wait and then get that confirmation. Okay, so successful connection test. It means I can use this as an input. So the next thing I will want to do is to head to the outputs, right? So I need to configure where do I want this stream analytics to send the result when I am done with any processing I want to do on the data. So there are a couple of places you want to send it to, but for the sake of our business case, which is the campaign organization of Party A, needs a dashboard where they can view how many tweets people are sending or how many tweets people are making regarding the 2 candidates. So we want to send it to Power BI. Remember earlier I said that you need to have a Power BI account to be able to use this. So I want to send it to Power BI. I'm going to authorize Power BI. I'll need to sign in. it's my Power BI account. Remember, before you can do this, you need to have created a Power BI account using a custom domain, but also you need to activate you need to activate, what is it called? You need to activate a trial, right? You need to activate a Power BI Pro trial. So once I click on this, so before we go on, let me show you what I did on my Power BI. So I will go to powerbi.com, and then in Power BI, I can create a namespace, right? I have a lot of namespaces, but I can create a namespace. But I already have a namespace that I created, not namespace, sorry, workspace, okay? To create a new workspace, you could just click here. And when you click here, you should be able to create a workspace. Sorry, I think I'm mixing it up. New workspace. Where are you? Workspace. So yeah, create workspace. Okay. So when you create a workspace, it just appears here. All you just need to do is just type your name. Here, I'm just gonna call this US election, for instance. Okay. So this is what I call it, but I have already created a namespace, so I will just cancel. But once you just type a name and hit save, you're going to see the workspace here, right? So the workspace I already have is election sentiments. They're already created for this. So once I do this, you need to do this step before trying to connect your Stream Analytics job to Power BI. Okay, so let's head back. And then I'll give this output a name. So let's say I call it tweets, output alias tweets. Yeah, tweets by candidates. I think this candidates. Okay, because my interest is I want to see how many tweets people we are posting for Joe Biden, how many tweets people are posting for Donald Trump. For now, I don't want to do anything fancy yet. Then I could look at all the things you're seeing are the workspaces I just showed you on my Power BI. So I'll just select election sentiments. The data set name I want is tweets by candidates. Okay, and the table name, I can just put it the same, but this time around, use tweets. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is change the authentication mode from manage identity to user tokens. So once I do this, I hit save. All right. Once I hit save, the same process is going to test if it can connect to my Power BI. And once it's able to connect, you're going to get a prompt saying connection was successful, and that is what we have. So right now we have an input setup, we have an output setup. The next thing we are going to do is to look at our query and see what we have